All right, hey guys, so here we are at Wandana Brewing. We're down in New South Wales and it's pretty wet, but we're going to go and chat to Rupert. All right guys, so here I am with Rupert and we're at Wandana and we're going to get into the kit. So, mate, thanks for having us here today.
Right, thanks for coming down.
Yeah. Second time, because
yes.
we dropped in and there was flooding and everything. We were actually quite happy. I was like, oh, it'd be good we didn't want to get stuck here.
Yeah,
More water ended up on the road.
It floods around here all the time.
Mate, tell us about your kit.
Well, there's not a lot to see. Obviously, it's a Tiantai kit. It is obviously a 2-vessel system, 1 HLT. I think I was just saying to you previously off camera, we started this project on a much smaller scale and it just slowly got bigger and bigger and bigger, and all of a sudden we came into this huge big shed.
Yep.
And we're like, right, we need a bigger system. But the budget didn't grow with the expectations, so a lot of stuff fell by the wayside. So all the bells and whistles like augers, cold liquor tanks, what else? Bright tanks, all that gone.
Yeah.
What's the bare minimum you need to make beer? That's what I want, and as big as possible. Thank you very much.
Have you been able to expand on that, or you're still having to go with it?
No, we're going with that mostly. Most of the peripheral stuff is like smaller stuff like pilot fermenters, canning lines, stuff like that. We did get forced into sort of making a whole bunch of purchases right due to COVID that we wouldn't have normally have done. So that's where the expansions have been.
Yeah, cool. Mate, that's a pretty well used mash paddle. Is that version 1, or is that you've gone through a couple?
That's version 1, and now I'd like to do another one with a longer handle. It gets a good workout. Yep. Part of the reason for that, obviously we have a Whirlpool jet on here, but to try sort of treat the wort a little bit lighter, I don't like to run that thing as hard as you have to run it to get a good whirlpool. So generally what I do is I run the whirlpool a little bit slower, the recirculation pump, but then give it a lot of good stirs with the paddle to try help it. Because I just sort of firmly believe you treat your beer nicely and it'll treat you nicely.
Mate, talking about treating your beer nicely, you've got something pretty unique going on here that we haven't seen anywhere else. So
I hope not.
Maybe someone else is just parking one of these up beside it. But speakers on your fermenters.
Speakers on the fermenters, So I came across this article years ago about how there was all these studies done by the University of Wellington in NZ about the effects of playing music to your beers while they're fermenting. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow. But then when you start to think about it, it made sense. I mean, we play music to dairy cows so they produce lots of milk. We play music to plants, and there's been so many studies into that. They play music to water and see the effects that it has on the water under microscopes and stuff like that. So it makes perfect sense. I mean, yeast is a single cell living organism. And it's not so much about the sound. I don't think yeast cells have ears. I don't know, I could be wrong. But it's more about the vibration. And there's been a bunch of studies into it about the effects of what music and the vibrations has on the beer. So up to 10% more efficient. So you get 10% less yeast, 10% more beer in the tank. There's a whole bunch of studies into the flavour profiles. You get better flavours out of them, happier yeast. It's actually incredibly interesting.
So it's specific music for specific beer styles?
We have a little bit more fun with it. There's been studies that just play tones. That's one thing, but I don't think you can generally hear these really loudly in here, and it sounds like a block party going on. You've got 5 different fermenters with 5 different sound systems going, and they're all competing over each other. It's horrible. So the last thing we're going to do is have some rumbling low notes or some high notes or whatever. So we play music to style. So harmonic lager, which is a very sort of traditional style, Aussie style lager. We play traditional classical music to it. XPA, which is loosely like an American style pale ale, all the hops from Pacific Northwest. Obviously we know what's from up there. That's Seattle. Grunge, 90s grunge on a heavy repeat going on there. All sorts of stuff.
Is that this one? This one that's active as everything?
This is the Mullumbimby Madness. Music-wise, we'll start with that. Music-wise, it is got Kiwi dub played to it.
Yeah, okay.
Mullumbimby Madness was what put Mullumbimby on the map in the 70s and 80s. It was a very incredibly strong strain of marijuana.
Yeah, okay.
And everyone used to drive up from Melbourne and Sydney, come up here and score and drive back down.
Yeah, right, okay.
It was mythical. And obviously there's a lot of contentious stuff out there about how whether hops is related to marijuana, etc. So it definitely smells like it. I mean, you've opened a few bags of hops yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it is, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and so we thought to pay homage to what put Mullumbimby on the map, we were going to call this beer the Mullumbimby Madness.
Yeah.
And that was the strain.
Yeah, nice.
And it's got that much bloody hops in it. There's nothing better to call it. And it, and it's fantastic. It's by far our biggest seller.
What sort of speaker is it? Like, is it a special speaker, or is it one that you've just had to hack together?
Yeah,
for your fermenters, or?
So we did initially look at putting speakers inside the tank, and I reached out to a few people. One of my best mates has a really big pool company. He says, look, yes, you can get speakers that go in there, but they're not going to handle the harsh environment that you have in there.
CIPs,
the CIPs, all that sort of stuff, all the acidic, obviously all our beers are acidic. And not only that, I reached out to the certifier of the pressure vessels and I said, hey, listen, I want to add a little hole in the top there, run a speaker down inside. And he's like, nah. Don't want to know about it. I'm not certifying that. I'm not touching it with a barge pole.
Okay.
So in the end, we had to mount Sonos speakers on top of the tank, so you can see the boxes. But yeah, so obviously your uni tanks, the only parts of the uni tank that are single skinned is the door, the manway, and the other one is on the dome on the top. So to get music in there, we had to mount them on top there, and we have like a special cradle set up, and we put a sound deadening insulation around inside the box, and it actually works quite well. But for us, we're more, it's not so much about musical clarity for us, it's more about the vibrations, and it's the vibrations that are doing the work.
Is it a single song on repeat, or is it a playlist?
It's a playlist. It's a playlist.
Yeah, okay.
So it's a playlist that goes on repeat. So there's a few artists out there I think owe me big time.
Yeah.
I'd say our roadie, our pale ale, gets Aussie roots. Big portion, disproportionate part of that playlist is Xavier Rudd. So, yeah, Xavier, if you're out there, mate, you owe me a beer.
And that's pretty awesome. I reckon it's time for a beer. What do you reckon?
Yeah, absolutely.
First off, Wandana. What does that mean? Where did it come from? Why that?
The official story is better than the real story. The real story was I wanted to call it something autochthonous to this region. I wanted to be in keeping with this area. I didn't want to have some sort of Anglo-white masculine name like so many other breweries are. It's not this area. Mullumbimby, it's very alternate. So I wanted to have something indigenous, something local. And I got mixed up. The name of the reef out the front of Brunswick Heads is actually called Windara, and I thought it was Wandana. Wandana is beautiful. And I talked to my mate, he's a good fisherman. He goes, he went silent, and I went, you there? And he goes, yeah. He goes, oh, look, I think you'll find that it's actually not Windara. Sorry, it's not Wandana, it's Windara. And I'm like, I like Wandana. We looked it up, and Wandana is an indigenous name that means to see far. And if you've seen the views we have out 100%. Here, we just get the most cracking sunsets. So it fit perfectly.
Yeah, nice. Oh, what a happy accident.
That's great.
So what are we drinking? I'm drinking the brown, a Pilot Brown.
Pilot Brown. I'm drinking the Mullumbimby Madness.
Yeah, nice. Bit early for us. We probably won't be sucking them down super fast.
Oh, don't say that.
I will be. No, I will be. Believe me. Well, how long have you been here? Like, what's the story? Did you go, right, here's my place, I've got a brewery idea, let's go? Or was it a...
No, look, this was, I came from a good, stable job in the past, well paid job. And I was a home brewer for about 12 years before opening the brewery. All growing right from the beginning, going very deep, lived down in Bondi. I was even talking to the guys at Batch when they were opening, about doing some contract gypsy brewing. We're talking way back. But I knew it was a stupid idea. It required a ton of work and a ton of money, so I just stuck at my day job.
For no return, right?
For no return. And so, 10 years down the track, had more children, living in Bondi, wanted to get out of Bondi, wanted to come home back to Mullumbimby because I grew up around here. and slowly started to look again at doing a brewery again.
Yeah.
But the plan was never for me to be the brewer or anything like that. You know, I just like beer, and I thought, oh, we'll just have like a little, you know, like a 3-port garage, and we'll just have, you know, open on the weekends, you know, just some nice home brews and stuff like that. And bit by bit, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. Next thing you know, it's like this circus. And I'm working harder than I've ever worked in my life. For no money.
That's right, it's still no money.
Still no money.
With your pilot kit, how often are you brewing pilot beers? Is it every other week, or
no,
is it?
Probably every second to third week. We're slowly sort of bumping up the batch sizes, which is taking a bit of the pressure off. But I mean, we have, I don't know, 5 or 6 pilot taps all the time in here. We really try to do pilot batches as much as possible, so there's never a tap free. We've always got a beer or two waiting to come on. And a lot of the recipes have been done 5 or 6 times on the pilot system before they even get a look at the big rig. And I think it's so important that you know your recipes. Like places that don't have pilot systems, pilot rigs, and just, you know, chucking it out there and suck it and see.
See what happens.
Yeah, I just don't know. In the long term, I just don't think that's a smart thing. Like, it costs money. You have to dump beer. It's labour-wise, it's ridiculously inefficient. You know what I mean?
It is.
But when you do release
it's the same amount of labour, and you're getting 5 kegs.
Exactly. But when you do release something on the big rig, it shows that you've done your homework on it, and that's what we try to. It doesn't always work like that, but that's what we try to do.
Who comes up with what goes onto the pilot? Is it you? Is there a board? Is there a list that everyone just sort of writes on? And
it's mostly me, but I do ask for inspiration off the crew. So what would you? We sort of try not to do beers that are fashionable. We like to do things a little bit different in here. Obviously, it's Mullumbimby. We're the land of the free thinkers. And if you know anything about Mullumbimby, anti-vaxxers, don't get me going on that. Conspiracy theorists, ripe up in the hills. But anyway, so we're free thinkers in here, so we don't try to do things conventionally. So we quite often are doing stuff that's not really in fashion. For example, that brown ale. You know, how often do you see a brown ale? Not
often enough.
No, exactly. But it's a great style of beer. So we'll do that. We've got a Belgian strong ale, which is a 10% Belgian strong ale. You know, people don't really get into the Belgian beers as much generally here in Australia. We love the Belgian beers, wheat beers, you know, or wheat beers. We pretty much always have one of those on rotation. I just do stuff that's a little bit more quirky, that's not in fashion, like your red IPAs or your, I don't know, you'd know better than I would. What's fashionable.
So how do the locals respond to that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we're definitely not. We're not the inner west of Sydney. We're not, you know, Brisbane. We're not the Gold Coast. It's a different demographic. So we do have to have our mainstay stuff that people would drink, those super sessionable pale ales, super sessionable lager. But then on the other side, we like to push the envelope, but we can't get away with, I mean, barrel aged stouts that are 12%, like literally we'd be drinking them all ourselves. We don't have that market around here, unfortunately, or not enough of it. We forgot to mention when we were walking around in your brewery about the canning line. So you've got a canning line in-house, so what do you can everything? Like, does everything get a run down the canning line? Or? Yeah, pretty much everything that goes on the big rig gets canned. But then all the pilot stuff is strictly for in here. You can't get growler fills. You can't get it. There's no crowler fills. There's nothing. You can't take it away. It's not canned, anything like that. So we've just found that, you know, some breweries do it differently. They can everything they make. But at the end of the day, not everything is as popular as what you'd like it to be. So you end up with maybe 15 SKUs in your cool room, and obviously we keep all our beers cold. You've got 15 SKUs in there. Some of them are rapidly going out of date, so you have to discount them, or they're not good.
And the sales is just dragging out that.
So in relation to your question about the canning line, so we had Scotty from Craft Punch, I believe is one of your sponsors.
He is.
Awesome bloke.
Thanks,
Love
man.
Scotty. Love Scotty. Hey, Scotty. Awesome, lovely guy. Our whole business plan went out the window with COVID. We were planning to open a tap room. have kegs in
People
here.
coming in here
Yeah,
buying
people
beer.
coming in, have a tap room, earn some money from it, sell kegs to local pubs. That was our business plan. And then when we get further down the track, we've got a little bit more money, then we'll start looking at canning and selling to bottle shops, because obviously it's a lot of capital investment up front to do canning. Well, it was so much more then. Now it's a little bit more accessible with different formats and stuff like that. So our plan went out the window with COVID, like everyone else's, but yeah, it went out the window. And so if we had to pivot really quickly, you go, right, we can't sell any kegs, all the venues are closed, we need to start canning, all right? And so we're like, straight away, what do you do it? How do you do it? Who does it? And we got recommended. Scotty was awesome. He was like the big, he was like Mr. Fox out of Pulp Fiction. It's all good, I got this. Here's the printer. Here's where you get your cans. I'll supply this, I'll supply that. You just got to get your artwork to them, blah, blah, blah. He was awesome and he helped us out. He was so good like that. And so from 1 minute to the next, we went from, wanting to do all kegs and stuff like that to canning. And we did about probably 4 canning runs, and it was great. We were starting to get some traction. We got quite a few customers on board. And then the locked down the borders for COVID.
Oh, right, so he couldn't come down.
He couldn't come down.
Yeah.
I had all the tanks full. I had multiple pallets of cans, I had all the labels, all the boxes, everything. And about a couple of days beforehand, he goes, hey, I can't come down. I'm like, you're kidding. Like, you can't be serious. Like, what do we do? Like, we can't, our venue's not open. And so we had to pivot. And so straight away, we're like, we need to buy a canning line. Because it was too expensive at that time to bring up someone from
East Coast.
From East Coast, exactly. It didn't work out. The numbers just didn't work out, especially not the volumes we were running at that stage. So we had to buy a canning line. And obviously everyone else is in the same boat. So everyone was trying to buy a canning line, and we're like calling up places going, and we've been open for like 3 months, and it was like, we need to spend 250, 300 grand on a canning line after opening up to an absolute fizzer. The joke's not finished yet, you know what I mean? And so we called up our finance guy going, hey, remember you said you would lend us some more money if we need it? I need it. I need a check. I need a check on this gentleman's table before 9 o'clock within the hour, or I've lost this canning line.
Oh, wow.
So we ended up getting this U-Butte, Ducks Nuts, Alpha canning line, quad head thing, runs 40 cans a minute, the whole lot, complete overkill for what we needed at the time. But that was the only canning line available, which is, thank goodness we did, because now we've grown into it and we flogged that thing.
Nice. That's awesome. That is a cool story. Well, mate, I've nearly finished my beer, and we've had a pretty good chat, I reckon.
Thanks.
Mate, thanks again
thanks for
letting us come down.
I appreciate it.
Mate, we do too. No,
come on down again.
Mate, definitely. I think that's the thing too. Like, you guys aren't actually that far away. Like, it's easy to think, oh yeah, New South Wales, but you're not that far away.
No,
the highway is pretty quick, and you just duck in and you're here.
Come down to Mexico.
I'm a New South Welshman anyway, but I always get picked on. No, that's awesome, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.